fastest growing B2B businesses in DACH use this signal-based sales system to predictably grow their business and win more customers. We're going to go over the exact process and system that we've implemented with hundreds of companies, many of which you see down below here in this video. So let's jump right in. So, as a founder or executive of an established B2B company with happy customers and product market fit, you know that your solution, which can be a product or service, provides significant value in the marketplace and that customers see the benefits of working with you. Most companies, however, and maybe you're in the same situation that we have worked with in the past, have grown over the years primarily through their network, through referrals, and through inbound requests. Some of them also had some good experiences over the years with cold calling or industry events, but all of them have noticed that over the last months and years, the efficiency of these traditional channels has declined, and that is actually getting harder and harder to speak with enough relevant people week over week. And because of that, going from a first meeting to winning an actual customer seems now more difficult than it ever has before. And it can feel something like this: that everyone has budget cuts going on, no matter who you speak with. That nobody you speak with is actually ready to make a decision right now, and a lot of people just want to hear what's going on or kind of window shopping. It can feel like that the amount of stakeholders involved in buying decisions, and especially complex buying decisions in B2B, are skyrocketing and increasing, and you have to deal with more and more people from the finance departments, CFOs that are getting involved and that are looking at ROI as the primary KPI to inform their buying decisions. A lot of the sophisticated buyers you're speaking with are also looking at different competitors at any given point in time when they're looking at a deal, and this drives prices down. And at the same time, it can feel like there's more and more competitors emerging week over week, and therefore it gets harder and harder to position yourself as someone or as a company with a clearly defined USP. Now, if you've been around for more than 8 years, you probably also experienced different macroeconomic environments and how these impact buying decisions. Now, if we look at the graphs here, we see that in 2024, the macroeconomic environment in the DACH region is marked by volatile interest rates, by inflationary pressures, and by increasing capital costs. In this environment, which has really been going on ever since the COVID pandemic, only those focused on profitable growth are thriving. And that makes it critical and crucial for businesses to really optimize for sales velocity whilst driving down their costs at the same time. Not surprisingly, because of this, an ongoing trend of mass layoffs can also be observed, with most of the big tech players such as Amazon, Meta, and Google consistently laying off significant parts of their workforce for one reason only, which is to cut costs. Such layoffs, as well as the recession, war, inflation, and low purchasing powers that we are currently experiencing, are all stressors that affect everyone and that force adaptation. It comes down to survival of the fittest in the marketplace. And now, naturally, these factors have also significantly shifted how B2B buyers approach procurement and investment decisions. In times of cheap capital, companies prioritize growth at all costs, and this was fueled by the easy availability of low interest rate loans or investor capital over the last years before the pandemic. However, as the macroeconomic environment tightened, B2B buyers have become more conservative, prioritizing efficiency, cost savings, and long-term sustainability over aggressive expansion. So, sophisticated B2B buyers, therefore, are now focused on maximizing the ROI of every investment. They scrutinize vendors more thoroughly, looking for partners who can demonstrate a clear path to profitability and efficiency. And the emphasis has shifted from just delivering innovation to growth to proving tangible and sustainable value.
For you as a B2B company, this also means that the long-term focus must be on efficiency, maximizing customer lifetime value, and thereby the value you can give to your customers, whilst minimizing your customer acquisition costs. In short, the macroeconomic environment shift has forced sophisticated B2B buyers to be more selective and cost-conscious, making it for you as a B2B company Very important to balance lifetime value against CAC. Focusing on profitability and efficiency ensures not only that you remain competitive and attractive in a market where excess capital no longer fuels unchecked growth, it especially means that you need to manage your CAC versus lifetime value even more carefully. And the reason for that is quite simple. If your CAC is getting too high compared to the lifetime value you achieve with your customers, your business will lose its ability to generate cash reserves, aka profits, and as a consequence will burn through cash quickly. An unsustainable and dangerous strategy in a market where capital is expensive and less available. On the other hand, this opens the possibility to outpace competition and thrive for those that achieve a strong ratio of at least 3-to-1 lifetime value versus customer acquisition costs. This ratio means that for every euro you spend on acquiring a customer, you should generate at least 3 euros in customer lifetime value. And this balance ensures that you as a business not only are growing, but generating sufficient return on your marketing and sales investments to sustain long-term profitability and the ability to adapt to the market. While everyone should be focused on increasing customer lifetime value by upselling or cross-selling, and especially your lifetime gross profit, you should also think about the reduction of your customer acquisition costs, because that's even more important. Decreasing your customer acquisition costs isn't just about cutting costs. It is as much a function of cost as it is of driving efficiency along the sales funnel. Think about it. In a hypothetical scenario where you and your competitor have the exact same workforce and cost structure, those with the more efficient process throughout the whole sales funnel will win. Those who cannot win new customers repeatedly, sustainable, and profitable will stagnate, lose market share, and eventually perish. If your competitor is spending 10,000 euros while you only spend 4,000 euros to acquire a new customer, all other things being equal, guess who will be more profitable and competitive long term? All of this leaves you with two options. One, watch from the sidelines with an outdated growth model, unsure what levers to pull to increase predictability, efficiency, and output, and continue the status quo in a state of capital inefficiency because nothing had worked before, leading to steady decline in competitiveness, market share, and revenue until your business eventually is crushed. Or second, seize the opportunity to increase efficiency in your business, boost both revenue and profitability by adapting, innovating, and leveraging new technology, thrive in this difficult economic situation while outpacing your competition to dominate your market now and in the future by reaching a predictable growth model that enables long-term profitability. And in our opinion, there's only one feasible option.
The answer is the predict growth model. It is the definite way to hyper-efficient growth and full predictability in the shortest time frame possible. For context, we are the founders of Predict and have built and refined the Predict growth model over the last 4 years, was working with more than 432 B2B companies. These include names such as Randstad Digital, Accelerated, Efficode, Iron Media by Sebastian Scharinsky, Entity X, Dr. Meyer and Partner, Drip Agency, Done Financials, and many, many more. With hundreds of B2B DACH companies with explanatory products and services and millions generated in profit, track record isn't even funny. For more references, you can also go and check out our website here. And now let's have a look at the Predict growth model, which is really the two-step standard operating procedure we use with clients to ensure that every B2B company can scale as efficiently and profitably as possible. It is based on data transparency, signals, and AI, allowing for the highest profitability of success whilst reducing the risk of failure to a minimum. To achieve this, we feed data points from your market, target audience, and customers into our signal-based data intelligence solution so that we can increase conversion rates across the funnel. In the next step, we then continuously develop and test hypotheses to find the highest converting combinations of message, plus market, filling your calendars with qualified meetings predictably. This now enables you to solve the forcing function of the market and to buy into an unfair advantage. In the next 33 pages, we'll break down every single step of this down to its core, and you can then either apply it yourself or take the shortcut and start. So if you're a serious founder or executive and you have a strong desire to grow the heck out of your business, was working with the best people in the world at this, I want you to book a quick discovery session or strategy session with one of us Predict founders now using the link here. And if you just want to hear a little bit more, just stay in this video as we're going to go through the entire thesis over the next minutes. Now, who is this for? Before we dive in, it's important we kind of review who this really is meant for. And this is meant for people that are founders, CROs, CSOs, sales leads, or VP sales at a DACH-based B2B company with a complex service or offer that is highly explanatory and therefore needs to be sold by people in meetings. If that applies to you, then this paper and this video apply to your use case. Especially they do if you believe that foundations are more important than tactics or the news tool, if you believe that data is superior to opinions or beliefs, if you provide extreme value to your customers and are proud of your work, if you have a valid skill set or service that is in need and it would be selfish of you not to with more companies than you're now currently doing, if your internal why is achievable and you drive towards it, if you believe that sales is a function of its process and can be solved with the right variable input, and if you believe there is no problem that cannot be solved with the right data processes and structures. This paper and this video is also for you if you have the following background. You grew comfortably over the last years just by leveraging your own network and customer referrals. Most deals that you did were closed by the founders or partners in your business with a high closing rate average. Events and trade fairs were a good source of new leads and opportunities for you in the past, and you never really had a sales problem, but experienced now a shift due to the difficult economic climate with budget cuts and limited capital availability. You also experience long and chaotic sales cycle with cold leads that can go over months or even years, and you also experience that every deal feels super competitive and it feels like prospects are constantly wanting to haggle about the price. Finally, this paper is for you if you tried hiring a head of sales, SDRs or hunters already to outsource the problem but were disappointed, most of the time with six-figure euro values down the drain. You worked with your marketing to create a new website, do webinars, write articles, post it on LinkedIn and spend 100+ hours on these topics without ever feeling the impact. You tried working with agencies that overpromised and underdelivered, never really seeing an ROI on your investment. You tried running cold calling, running ads with lead magnets on LinkedIn, Google or even Meta, but never saw an ROI. You have had enough of spending a lot of money and time getting promises, then seeing no changes and no results. And you have a hunch that the solution lies somewhere else and that there must be a proven process to solve for your situation. It also applies to you if you tried as a founder to step out of the sales game just to realize you need to jump back in to protect your company, and if you suspect that most marketing agencies cannot hold true to their claims and just don't produce the results they promise. All right, guys, now if this describes you, then stay on, because now we're going to jump into the exact way of solving for these issues via the Predict growth model. And for this, let's start with the basics. There really is no quick fix to creating predictable growth in B2B. No push of the button solution that will get you from where you are right now to market leading CAC and growth rates. Our goal at Predict is to implement a systematic go-to-market approach for customers that solves for the most granular problems in B2B marketing and sales, generating predictable lead inflow and shortening the sales cycle in the right order and once and for all. And we do this by implementing two activities that both impact your CAC significantly and that allow you to systematically drive down the cost that you have when acquiring a new customer step by step. The first activity is to reverse engineer predictable lead inflow by using signals and AI. Now, in the world of B2B sales with complex solutions, generating new customers begins with one essential step, which is to get qualified meetings on your calendar. While most founders and executives obsess over product features, pricing, or their next marketing initiative, the reality is that the number of possible meetings is dictated by three far more fundamental factors. Number one, how many companies exist in your target market? Number two, how many of them have an urgent problem that you can actually solve? And number three, do these people, these companies know who you are, and do they trust that you can help them? The answer to these questions is not only critical for understanding your growth potential in a strategic context, but also for the efficient allocation of marketing resources. But how can we answer these questions in a systematic and resource efficient way? Let's break down how we do it step by step, with the first step being a signal-based TAM analysis. The first thing we do is to create full transparency over your target market. And for this, let's jump into a little bit of context. Most of the B2B executives we speak with on a daily basis have at best a rough idea of the companies in their target market in terms of industries, characteristics, and most relevant personas. This is not ideal. Therefore, first and foremost, we begin with generating a fully transparent and prioritized overview of your total addressable market, determining the exact size and scope of your market and of the market your business can serve right now. This list is then further refined, specified, and prioritized by using signals, which can be defined as digital breadcrumbs that businesses and people working in your target audience leave day after day by broadcasting their needs, goals, challenges publicly and often unintentionally. Now, why are these signals so important? If we loop back to the current B2B landscape with budget constraints and rising competition, where capital efficiency and ROI are paramount, then here precision becomes of the essence. In this environment, an advantageous relationship between CAC and LTV can be achieved only when resources are allocated at the highest possible rate of return at any given point in time. And by performing a signal-based TAM analysis, we solve this problem from the ground up by incorporating real-time data and behavioral insights to prioritize companies and prospects based on actual measurable signs of readiness. By identifying companies that are actively demonstrating intent or exhibiting behaviors that align with your solution's value proposition, you can direct your marketing efforts at the right person at the right time, dramatically improving conversion rates across the entire sales funnel. Now for you, this basically just means that you will be speaking with more people that are actually in demand of your solution every single week. Now, although the range of potential signals is limited only in terms of creativity, really, let's examine just a few key examples of signals that will help to illustrate their significance. Starting out with the first category, which is financial signals. Those can be financial events such as fundraising rounds, IPOs, or acquisitions, which really are powerful indicators of a company's readiness to invest. They often suggest that a company is in a growth phase and has newly available capital that may be earmarked for investments in tools or services that support expansion. A Series C fundraising round that has been published would be a great example here. A second example of a signal is the category of signals that are executive or strategic hiring trends. Now, the hiring of key executives or new leadership is a direct signal of strategic shifts within a company. A new CTO or VP of sales often brings a fresh mandate to overhaul existing processes, which could include evaluating, adopting new solutions at the same time. So we could, for instance, see if there's any newly appointed C-suite executive, such as a chief data officer in a mid-market firm, and that then may signal a company's shift toward data-driven decision-making. Coming to the next category, we also look at changes in technology stack, because technology adoption or migration events provide insights into a company's current operational priorities. And we can tell that if a company adopts a new platform or migrates to a cloud infrastructure, it often opens the door to new related solutions that need to be integrated into their new ecosystem. So this could, as an example, be a company moving from legacy software to cloud-based infrastructure. And this could also signal that they need complementary SaaS solutions for project management, security or compliance, etc. The fourth signal category we have here is public announcement and strategic press releases. Now, this is really straightforward. Corporate communications, such as press releases or interviews, reveal strategic priorities and where the focus of the business lies. And if a company announces a product launch or a market expansion or a new strategic initiative, these are signals of imminent changes that may require new tools or services to support those efforts. So if we find a company that publicly announces that they're going to be entering a new market, for instance, then this would obviously signal an opportunity for your solution to aid in localization, compliance, or market penetration strategies, just to give a few examples here. The next topic would then be regulatory or market shifts. Now, these have less to do with the business itself that we're targeting, but rather with the environment that business is operating within. And if we see that there's external pressures, such as new regulations or industry standards that are changing, that are impacting your target audience, and that can force these companies to adopt new solutions to remain compliant or competitive. And here we can look at many different examples. One of them would be changes in data privacy laws, for instance, that could spark the demand for data management and compliance solutions. Another example would be competitor movements. So if we see that competitors are moving with product launches, expansions, or partnerships, then that can trigger a response from your target companies. And if a competitor is innovating or capturing market share, other players in the same space may feel the pressure to respond by investing in similar or better tools. The next category is social media activity. So in a world where today everyone is constantly posting, commenting, and engaging on social media, we can capture all of this activity and use it to our advantage. So for instance, a surge in LinkedIn posts by key executives where they share thought leadership pieces about digital transformation or operational efficiency can signal a company's intent to modernize its processes. Coming to the final two categories we're going to look at here, we have one more, which is online advertising. So many companies do invest in running online ads on Google, Meta, and other platforms. And the fact that they do so does not only indicate demand, but also often opens up possibilities to analyze their current marketing strategy, identify current key areas of improvement, and use them in your messaging when engaging with these individuals. So for instance, if a company begins running Google ads for a new product line, this could indicate that they're ramping up efforts for market penetration, or it could also just be a good door opener to address the lack of quality in their Google ads. And now, last but not least, we have the department size and hiring trends. So thanks to LinkedIn and Xing, we can basically have a great overview of hiring trends of a company in any given target market, not only by analyzing open positions, but also by analyzing the growth or decline in specific departments. And such signals where there's either rapid expansion or rapid decline in a certain department can suggest that a company is investing heavily in acquisitions and might need solutions to streamline their management or whatever else is going on in that particular department. Now, once we actually have found all of these signals, the next step is to interpret them automatically. And in this time analysis, this basically immediately enables our customers to identify market opportunities by clearly understanding the size and structure of their market, prioritizing the allocation of marketing resources on high-intent segments, and improving forecasting and strategic planning through realistic projections of the growth opportunities present at any point in time. And achieving this outcome, this whole interpretation of this data used to be a tedious and inaccurate and first and foremost resource intensive and manual research process, which would be performed by entire SDR teams over months or even years, all to end up with a broad overview of market potential, after which normally you would have to hire a data analyst to begin analyzing, operationalizing that data. But fortunately, it doesn't have to be this way. Today, Predict, we leverage AI and automation, as well as over 73 tools, databases, and web scrapers to capture real-time data about your market. This allows us to create a list of all relevant companies and personas, which is then enriched with signals automatically, all within a day. We then run large language models, which is basically artificial intelligence trained specifically for this use case, over the list to interpret the data and to uncover low-hanging fruits and big leverage activities immediately. Once we have this final TAM list ready and we now know who your target market is, what signals they're currently giving off that signal intent, and we also have interpreted these signals and used them to prioritize that target market, it is now time for step 2, which is to nail down the ICP. So before we can start conversation with your newly defined target audience, we must take a step back and remember that every top of funnel marketing activity has one goal, which is to get a reaction. A demo, a meeting, a reply, that's it. And to make this happen, we don't need to pitch features or boast about benefits. That is for later in the sales pitch. Right now, we need to spark just enough interest for them to give us their time. And how do we do that? We do that by maximizing relevance, but not vague, generic relevance. We're talking about the kind of relevance that makes your prospect feel like you've shadowed their workday, like you're in their head, like you just get them. And to do so, we must start with creating an accurate and representative ideal customer profile. And this ideal customer profile consists of the following parts, which is the current state of your target audience, the desired state they have, the problems they're facing, the alternatives they have to solve their problems, and your solution. Let's go over these one by one. The current state, basically, to nail down the current state, you have to put yourself into your target persona's shoes. So really nail down, what does their day-to-day look like? What tools are they working with? What team structures do they operate in? What processes are they running and which inefficiencies are present? What about their market and how does it affect them? And are they feeling the pressure of economic climate right now? Just to give a few examples. The desired state is then the goals that your target customer has. So where do they want to be? What dreams, goals, and ambitions do they have on a professional and on a personal level? Why do these matter to them? And what happens if they don't reach them? The next step is then looking at the problem, because now we've created a clear and accurate picture of the current and desired state of your target audience. And what now becomes clear is the gap, which is the space between the current and desired state. And this is what we want to understand here, which is why aren't they already in their desired state? What roadblocks are in their way? What is limiting their efforts right now? Is it resources? Is it tech? Is it processes? What misconceptions or objections are holding them back? We want to be as granular as possible here. Now, once we've defined the problem, we go look at the alternatives. So what are they doing instead of working with you to solve this problem? What have they tried on their own? What have they, or what are they trying on their own, or what have they tried before? And how is it working out for them? And what's the downside of these solutions? Once we've nailed these down, it's finally time to talk about you now, which is your solution. Now, this is where you come in, and we now want to clearly define how your solution bridges the gap between the current and the desired state. So another way to think about it is, what is the one key transformation that you can offer that bridges the gap between the current and desired state and that solves the problem that lies in the middle in a way that no one else can? The more granular you are about these details, the better you can create hyper-targeted messages that don't just speak to your ICP's needs, but that resonate deeply with their lived reality. There's an in-depth framework linked here where you can go through all the different steps if you want to. Now, what happens if you don't know the answer to any of these questions? And you kind of realize that you actually have no idea about who your ICP is and what exactly is important to these people? Well, that's a good thing, because then we just uncovered a foundational issue that must be addressed before any other activity in the sales area of sales of marketing really can make any sense whatsoever. The good news is that there is a repeatable and validated process that you can use to get a crystal clear view of your ICP within just a few days. And the ICP validation process goes as follows. Step 1 is you make a list of your 20 best customers, which can be existing or potential customers. You then reach out to them one by one using the template and process linked here in this document. You then stop only reaching out after you have booked at least 10 interviews with them. You then build your ICP questionnaire using the MUM test method, which is also linked in here. And then you document and analyze the answers. The idea here is quite simple. You realize you don't know your target audience well enough. So in order to accommodate that, to fix that, you go out and you speak to them. But you don't want to go into the conversation with all of your biases and misconceptions woven into the questions you ask. And you ideally want to get the unbiased, unfiltered, and true problems and desires that your target audience really experiences. And for that reason, it is critically important you read the MUM test before and follow the method outlined in the document when setting up your questionnaire. All right, guys, now with this, we have created the ICP, and it's now time for step 3, which is to create a hyper-targeted messaging framework. As you can see, we also have for this a process that outlines the entire thing step by step. And the reason is that with a fully enriched TAM, now you have all relevant signals and a crystal clear ICP in mind. This is now the perfect time to start creating your messaging concept. And before we jump into that, it is important to remember the importance of relevance, because relevance really is everything. Your message needs to show your target audience that you understand their current reality, aka what's keeping them up at night, what they're up against, and where they want to go. The more you can make them feel like you've been walking in their shoes, and the more you can really make them feel understood, the more likely they will be to respond to you. The reason for this is pretty straightforward. When your messaging is tailored to your ICP, it is grounded in relevance and delivered at the right time. It stops being a cold mail, LinkedIn message, or call. It becomes a conversation starter. So you're not just pushing your product or service, you're actually offering a lifeline, a solution to a real problem that they're already thinking about. And here's how you do it. Step one is to address your ICP directly. Whether it's the executive who's frustrated with long sales cycles or the marketing lead who's struggling to generate qualified leads, you need to speak directly to their role and what it means for them personally. Here, timing is key. So you want to leverage signals. Are they expanding? Are they going through a merger? Are they hiring like crazy? You want to use these signals to time your outreach perfectly, so it feels like you're showing up at the exact moment that they need you. With that in mind, now let's break down the messaging framework step by step. The initial part of a message is always the subject line. And here, first impressions matter, as with everything in life. So the subject line should be tailored to what's important to them right now, and it could reference their industry, a problem they're facing, or a timely signal. You want to keep this tight and you want to make this specific. Then you go into the first line. With the first line, you want to start with a bang. Ideally reference something specific about that situation. Maybe they just hired 5 new account execs or raised a Series B funding round, and you want to just show them that you're paying attention. This is where all that work on signals and the ICP starts to pay off. You now propose the problem. After grabbing their attention, it's time to hit them now with the pain and describe the problem they're likely facing in clear and concise terms. It should be something they're already either aware of or will immediately recognize as an issue. The next step is now to provide a solution, where you briefly outline how your solution fits in. But remember here, this isn't a pitch. You're not selling your solution yet. You're just pointing out that there's a way forward. So this is more about sparking curiosity and getting them to react than it is closing a deal. We're still on the messaging plane here. We're not talking to the people in the meeting yet. And then you want to also utilize social proof, because when in doubt, all humans go back to the herd. This is a fundamental psychological truth that is static and that will never change, which is exactly why you want to use it to your advantage. So in your messaging, you want to drop the most relevant logos and case studies for them and the outcomes you were able to achieve for them. You want to use KPIs and show the timeline over which a transformation took place and be as specific and audacious as possible when doing so. Now, when towards the end of your message, you now come to your call to action. Here, it's time to wrap it up with a low pressure ask. And the goal is to move the conversation forward and get to the next step. You want to make it clear and easy for them to respond to this call to action. And finally, just as an additional point to add, there's industry lingo. The final ingredient here is really that you want to hit the right tone of voice and language for the person that you're speaking to, and you want to talk like they talk. You want to use their lingo, you want to reference common pain points and mirror the tone they would use to express them. This will make them feel like you're part of their world and you're not an outsider trying to sell them something. In fact, you're an expert and you know exactly what they're going through. Now, once you've defined this messaging concept, based on these principles, it is now time for step 4, which is to iterate for message market fit using the scientific method. Now, this final step is really about methodically A/B testing your message with the market until you find the right combinations of target audience, signals, and content. By utilizing the Predict framework that has been validated with hundreds of thousands of data points, this process can be turned from an art into a science. Being scientific here means that we break the messages down into its constituent parts and treat each one of them as well as the whole as a hypothesis to be validated or falsified with the market. And you don't want to try to change the entire message. You want to split test as specifically as possible and isolate individual variables with at least 500 to 1,000 prospects at a time to get actually significant data. And then you want to monitor the responses and the rates of engagement, learn from the feedback and adapt. You want to consider here that nothing is static and that there is a very real possibility that your assumptions about your ICP were off in the beginning, even if you spoke to your customers, and that you will have to go back and edit it if you get sufficient feedback from the market. At Predict, we update our ICP once every quarter based on the market feedback we receive, and we highly recommend you do the same. Response rate benchmarks vary significantly depending on region, industry, and stakeholder group, but for the purposes of this document and video, you should aim for no less than 10 to 15% reply rate and 1 to 3% meeting booking rate, as well as 50% to 70% open rates if you choose to track them, which is actually not recommended. Now, if you've done steps 1 to 3 correctly, this process should lead you to a highly converting message within 2 to 6 weeks of testing for any combination of target audience and signals selected. And the result? It is a calendar such as this, which is full of qualified meetings. This is a snapshot from our calendar from just a few weeks ago, of which every appointment here in red is a qualified sales meeting, and all of them came from our own system, from our own signal-based sales approach. And you see here, this is demo, 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 and demo. I think it's around like 15 here in this example. That pretty much sums up activity 1.
Let's come to activity 2. Optimizing for a shorter sales cycle by establishing a measurable and methodical B2B sales process. Once we have implemented the right steps to generate a predictable inflow of relevant meetings, we don't want to stop there. While the meeting is the first step to start a sales process when selling to sophisticated B2B buyers, there are a lot more steps that need to be taken to go from a coldish first relevant conversation to a hot opportunity that is ready to buy. If we go back to our main hypothesis, and that is LTV versus CAC should be a ratio of 3 to 1, then we need to identify what the main driver for our customer acquisition cost is. And it's the sales process, especially the length of the sales cycle. Understand that the length of the sales cycle heavily influences your customer acquisition costs, because for every day that passes, you need to pay your experienced and, to be honest, expensive sales reps, or spend your own time as a founder or executive, which is even more expensive, in numerous meetings, prepare workshops, travel to in-person events, etc. Each of these interactions add to your customer acquisition cost and take away from your bottom line, even if you are unsure if the deal will even close. By this logic, the worst case scenario you need to avoid is spending a significant amount of your time and money on deals which at the end do not convert. And sadly, it's a reality that most B2B companies face every single quarter. But it doesn't have to be this way. When going back to first principles, we see that there are 3 questions that influence the length of the sales cycle. Number 1, does the company have a concrete demand or goal that has strategic, which means C-level priority? Do you speak with the right economic buyer at the company that has or can influence the buying decision and budget? And number 3, are you able to demonstrate the value of your solution convincingly to all relevant stakeholders? Now, if you paid attention in the first activity, you will realize that if we do activity 1 correctly, this automatically means that the first 2 variables are given before we start with our sales process. So we are basically 2/3 of the way already. Therefore, in the following section, we will concentrate our focus on giving you the tools and frameworks to master the 3rd variable. Before we jump into the exact process, let's zoom back out to our changing nature of B2B buyers. Today's B2B buyers are better informed, more selective, and involve a wider range of stakeholders in their decision-making process. This shift has been amplified by the current macroeconomic environment, where financial scrutiny and risk aversion is high. Decision cycles are lengthening, CFOs and finance departments are more involved, and companies are prioritizing cost-effective solutions that promise measurable ROI. Understanding and aligning with this changing buyer behavior requires a methodical and measurable sales process that is adapted for your specific target group and solution. So the first step is to reverse engineer the buying process. And we're going to cover now why that is essential. As we have established before, the main reason for why sales cycles extend to months and years, driving up your customer acquisition costs in the process, is due to a lack of control. This means that you need to do anything in your power that allows you to get and retain the control of the process. In the context of today's market, where purchasing decisions are made by sophisticated B2B buyers in multi-stakeholder environments, reverse engineering their buying process is key. This involves understanding the journey from the buyer's perspective, identifying the key decision makers, and aligning sales activities accordingly. By doing this, you learn to anticipate buyer needs, adapt to decision timelines, and address potential objections proactively. It also allows you to take charge of who you speak with, when, and in what order, so you can convey the right parts of your sales arguments to the right stakeholders at the right time. Contrary in this, most B2B companies currently follow a different approach, where most, if not all, of the control over the sales process lies with the prospect. After the demo or sales meeting, a PDF offer is sent out, and the prospect now decides on the next steps as well as when and how the deal is going to progress. It's a recipe for disaster. You need to understand that most B2B buyers make a purchase decision for your solution for the first time. Even if they were 100% convinced of the value of your solution, they are not equipped, and how should they, to convincingly present it to their board, CFO, or investors. You, on the other hand, are constantly in meetings with prospective buyers, your existing customers, to gain and develop an understanding of why your solution is needed, what objections will come up, and what risks are involved and what benefits are gained. So, why would you give the control to a stakeholder that never has done it before, has an information gap, and has their own interests and politics to worry about? Of course, they know their organization better, but it's your job to gain even more understanding of them and use your industry knowledge, product and service knowledge, and experience to support and consult them to the right decision for the organization. With that being said, let's now go through the entire process of setting up a methodical B2B sales process step by step. Step number 1, mapping out the buyer's journey. The first step is creating a methodical sales process is to understand the stages your target buyers go through. Typically, the B2B buying journey includes the following 5 stages. And of course, we can even go deeper, especially in stage 1 or 2 or 3. First, problem identification. The buyer becomes aware of a problem or opportunity that can be driven by stakeholders below the line who are confronted with the problem during their day-to-day operations, or stakeholders above the line that know of the problem and want to tackle it as a strategic priority. Above the line priorities often have an impact on company growth, efficiency, or decreasing costs. Solution exploration. The buyer researches potential solutions, including competitors, and evaluate options. This can also include asking peers and developing a feeling or understanding of the potential options that are out there. The third one is vendor shortlisting. The buyer narrows down options based on specific criteria such as costs, return of investment, and functionality, and what even involves there and what fits their current process and ideas. That step is sometimes not a conscious step during the procurement or buying process, but it happens every single time, even if it's in the head of your stakeholder. Internal consensus. The decision is made collaboratively with various internal stakeholders such as department heads, finance, and IT. Again, it is important to understand who will be involved and with which agenda to really understand how you need to position your solution to the relevant stakeholders. And number 5, the final decision. The final decision is made, contracts and NDAs are signed, and the solution is integrated into the organization. Understanding these stages allows you to craft specific messages, presentations, and sales interactions that align with which stakeholder you are speaking with and where they are in their decision-making process to influence how and with whom they will move forward with. You must account for the specific nuances of your market, product, and customer. For example, in enterprise-level deals, the decision-making process is often lengthy with multiple stakeholders across different functions and multiple competitors. This means more complexity and a longer sales cycle on average, but also a greater reward. If you're targeting SMBs or have a lower average contract value, you most likely will have less stakeholders involved and therefore the potential for swift decisions and a higher sales velocity. At the same time, you will then have to deal with more competitors and more budget-sensitive buyers, meaning you have to be incredibly precise and avoid any mistakes or unawareness in negotiations to avoid a pricing race to the bottom. Step 2 is an in-depth analysis of your current sales funnel. After you gained the outside view and walked in the shoes of your potential customers, you need to develop a detailed understanding of your current sales process. The goal is to analyze what is currently working and what isn't. For this, we don't want to rely on opinions or feelings. We want to focus on facts and cold hard data. Remember, only what is measured actually gets improved. And the quickest way to mathematically evaluate your current sales process is through a funnel analysis and win-loss analysis. This will help you to pinpoint where the process is working well and where it needs adjustments, so you don't waste your time and resources working on the wrong thing. Let's break down what a funnel analysis is. This involves mapping out the stages of your sales funnel from lead generation to closing customers and analyzing conversion rates at each step. For example, how many meeting requests do you get per week and how many of them actually show up for the demo? Or are you getting enough first meetings, but those leads aren't progressing to the next pipeline stages? Are deals stalling after pricing discussions or after you send out an offer? By methodically identifying bottlenecks and leaks in the funnel, you can focus on the areas that are currently blocking you the most and iterate the process until you achieve your desired conversion outcome. Lastly, you not only want to track the average conversion rates throughout the funnel, rather, you also want to evaluate in which stage deals stagnate, for how long and why. Oftentimes, this will allow you to spot inefficiencies and open up new ways to shorten your sales cycle and increase your sales velocity. The second thing is the win-loss analysis. Although this is a more of a qualitative approach, a detailed win-loss analysis is equally important. By reviewing your past deals, both successfully and lost, you can identify patterns in buyer objections, decision timelines, and key competitive advantages. This data will help you to make informed improvements in your process, messaging, and engagement strategy. If you are looking for patterns and similarities between companies who have won and companies who have lost, this will give you an overview of what is working and where you need improvement. The more detailed the win-loss analysis is, the better the results will be. You can consider things like loss reason, stakeholder first touch point, which channel, which job title, when, pipeline stage, before setting to loss, which number of meetings during the sales process, number of stakeholders involved, in which functions, which seniority and job title, competitors involved, main objections during the sales process, where all qualifying metrics met, MEDDIC or similar methods could be used here, and did you have a closing plan and a stakeholder map during the sales process. We can also send you a template for detailed win-loss analysis and how that could look like for you. The third step is creating convincing sales arguments for the sophisticated B2B buyer. Creating convincing sales arguments for the sophisticated B2B buyer can be broken down into 3 fundamental steps: getting thesis buy-in, establishing your solution as the vehicle, and methodically removing all obstacles from the deal. Let's go through each of these steps one by one. Creating your thesis. Selling to sophisticated buyers, as we all do in B2B, requires that the prospect buys into your thesis. The thesis is the argument of which the feature hypothesis of the service or product were based. The key concept is that if the prospect buys into your thesis, they will buy into your products or services. If the prospect doesn't buy into the underlying thesis upon which the product, features, or the service were hypothesized, then the prospect will never buy into the product or solution. If the prospect buys into the thesis, then they will likely buy into the vehicle or product. If the prospect buys into your thesis more than a competitor, then you will win the business. The best way to explain your thesis is with a visual diagram and rock solid evidence. We use flow diagrams made with lucid charts. You can have a look at the examples. And rock solid evidence is basically case studies over case studies over case studies. The thesis clearly shows that you understand the transformation and steps the customer needs to take to achieve their desired state better than they do. Once the prospect realizes that you understand this transformation more than they do, they will trust that whatever you are selling for them is good. The sales becomes a function of price, not the product. This is the position you want to be in. You want to be thought of as a trusted expert, not a salesperson. In order to achieve this status, you will need to articulate your thesis. This section is meant to be extremely educational and useful to the customer. Even if the customer doesn't buy, they should still feel like they received a ton of value from speaking with you. The next step is framing your solution as the vehicle. Once the prospect buys into the thesis and associated transformation, you then want to introduce the features of your solution and your offer and clearly show how each feature ties into the thesis and benefits. Sophisticated B2B buyers love detail. They love to know exactly how everything works. They want proof and examples, and they are looking to believe that you can actually pull it off. This means that now is the time to walk them through each feature and always ask if their prospects understands the feature and how it delivers the benefits. You want to always show proof and speak to the benefits and outcomes more so than the technicalities. An extremely important ground rule to follow is that you do not want to feature dump ever. Feature dumping is just throwing technical information at the prospect and hoping that they connect the dots between the feature and the benefit. Don't be a feature dumper. Make the connection between the feature and the benefit crystal clear and rock solid. Even better, underlie it with proof. General rule, if you're explaining a feature, always tie it into a benefit and outcome. How does it change their life? That's what you need to focus on. The next step is methodically removing obstacles to the deal. Once you have achieved the thesis buy-in and established your solution as the vehicle to achieve the desired transformation, it is now your job to methodically bring out and remove any obstacles to the deal. This means following the right cycle structure in your calls and being methodical in bringing out potential objections. Objections are reasons for disagreement in the heads of your prospect, and it's your job to bring them out and address them for every single stakeholder that you speak with. You can refer to some of these tactics in the fourth step to help you do this. Once you have removed all objections, you must also remove all logistical concerns. This means answering the questions of how is this going to work for us? Prospects won't take action if there's any ambiguity or uncertainty. Ambiguity causes uncertainty, uncertainty causes inaction. You want to be proactive and precise in showcasing the exact action plan from onboarding to the end state and their desire. This is why we kill all uncertainty with a crystal clear action plan in which you want to clearly map out the next steps for them. This shows the customer that you actually spent time thinking through all the steps that they need to take. You have it covered. They are in the presence of an expert. When you create an action plan for your specific offer, this will help both in sales and with your customer success process. It will also help with multi-stakeholder deals, since the prospect will often bring the action plan back to the other team members. And if the team members see how detailed it is, it will create a ton of trust and the sales cycle time will decrease. Since very few companies have any kind of action plan to begin with, having a detailed end-to-end plan will help you to differentiate and stick out. Step 4 is leverage advanced sales tactics for your relevant use case. Now that you have mapped the buyer's journey, analyzed your sales funnel, built convincing sales arguments, now it's time to introduce some of the more advanced tactics that the best B2B sellers in the world leverage. These can be incredibly powerful when used correctly. Read through them and see which one apply to your use case and align them with the buyer journey you mapped out. First one, multi-threading after the first call. In many complex sales cycles, a successful first meeting will not immediately lead to a decision. After establishing initial contact, it is crucial to engage multiple stakeholders, often referred to as multi-threading. This involves identifying and building relationships with different influencers, decision makers, and approvers within the organization. You can use tools like LinkedIn or CRM data to identify these individuals, but multi-threading will reduce your risk of losing momentum if one stakeholder disengaged or strengthens even the internal buy-in. After your opportunity moves into a qualified stage, build a stakeholder map of key personas you need to move because they will be involved into the buying decision or implementation. Most companies think that is only necessary if you sell to enterprise accounts. But as shown in the above graphic, this should be done if you sell solutions with more than 50,000 euros in average contract value. Because on average, 7 stakeholders will be involved into the buying decision. That's why it's critical to build relationships with multiple stakeholders across different levels of the organization, beyond just the initial point of contact. Engage with influencers, technical evaluators, and economic decision makers will increase the likelihood of maintaining momentum and addressing concerns from different parts of the business. And we all know time will kill most deals. The next tool you can use are in-person workshops to gain access and to build trust. Workshops can be particularly effective when closing larger deals. They're an effective tool to dive deeper into the buyer's challenges and position yourself as an expert and a strategic partner. Workshops offer the opportunity to bring more stakeholders into the conversation, particularly those higher up in the decision chain, and they also allow for more personal interaction, which helps to build trust, which will be a key factor in closing high-value deals. Workshops are also a great tactic to be combined or used together with multi-threading, as you will most likely be inviting different stakeholders to be present. One important factor you should consider: you will be in a room with a lot of different people that have their own motivation, agenda, and interests. It is your role to understand and use it to keep the whole room engaged and gain their trust. You can achieve that through proactively understanding who will be involved during the workshops, compare the list to your stakeholder map, and invite additional stakeholders with a reason why they should join. You can get your champion involved in that. Do one-on-one interviews with each stakeholder that will be present to understand their viewpoint and situation. This will allow you to gain deeper understanding into the organization, prepare the workshop to involve each stakeholder, build one-to-one relationships, and proactively identify and communicate objections. Next step is proactively creating a business case for CFOs and ROI-focused decision makers. As financial scrutiny increases, CFOs and plain numbers play an increasingly central role in the decision-making process. One effective method to engage them is to proactively develop a sent-out business case that outlines the return of investment, cost savings, and potential risks, and the value of your solution. This allows you to retain control even over back-office discussions in your prospect's company headquarters. To create a business case, you can use a spreadsheet or digital sales room. See the tactic below. It is highly recommended that you set the business case up together with your champion or key stakeholder to make sure all the numbers check out and that they are in line with company priorities before sending it out. And the last tactic we can recommend are digital sales rooms. A digital sales room is a secure shared digital interface where all stakeholders can access key documents, proposal, contracts, technical information, testimonials, case studies, and mutual action plans. These rooms improve transparency, allow for faster information sharing, and increase engagement, as they provide a space for collaboration and feedback. Buyers can revisit the material at their own pace and share it with internal stakeholders, making it in the final stages of the sales process. More importantly, it also gives you the transparency to analyze which stakeholders are more involved than others and which key information gets looked at more often, and who you should engage on a personal level to keep traction and handle possible objections. They are also a great forecasting tool with incredible accuracy. At Predict, for instance, we know that prospects with a high level of engagement in digital sales room and more than 2 stakeholders involved will have a 70% closing rate average. An example of how a sales room can look like is found here. The end result of implementing a methodical sales process and having mapped out your activity one to generate relevant meetings week over week will be a reduced sales cycle and an improved meeting quality. And that's basically the outcome of the Predict growth model. Maximize lifetime value versus customer acquisition cost, efficiency, profitability, and a higher EBITDA. Compound effect of activity 1 and activity 2, when iterated on real market feedback and implemented in the right order, is a calendar full of relevant sales meetings with only qualified personas in ICP companies. Means you have a higher pipeline value. A methodical sales process lead to a shorter sales cycle, means you win more business deals faster at a lower cost, which also leads into a higher ratio of LTV versus CAC. This ultimately results in a predictable new business engine and a high lifetime value versus customer acquisition cost ratio, crazy EBITDA and valuations. And it is also why leading companies like Randstad Digital, Efficode, and Accelerated work with us. You can go through the proof here, what we achieve for our customers and how we make it happen for them and what their end result look like. We produce a predictable pipeline with relevant and qualified meetings week over week, completely hands-off for you, with a dedicated go-to-market consultant and go-to-market engineer, as well as the custom built out infrastructure for your use case. Your consultant will then also help enable and support you in the optimization of your sales process. We decided if we want to produce these results, we need to take care of every aspect, technology, and skill set to perform the Predict growth model and build it into an in-house team. We then broke down the technologies needed to build a predictable lead inflow system, starting by data, domains, signals, AI models, as well as the experience in sales, marketing, and especially copywriting. It all came down to 73 plus API connections, 38 data providers, custom large language models that combine everything in an internal operating system. A go-to-market consultant that concentrates on only a handful of companies to go deep into research, copywriting, and sales consulting. A go-to-market engineer that can build custom processes and workflows for the specific client need in terms of signals and AI. And we mapped out a process that allows us to build an infrastructure for each customer, go through a detailed onboarding process with one-on-one workshops, and quickly iterate based on real-time market feedback and industry data. 100% hands-off after the onboarding process. So the decision is all yours. Do you want to use the outlined information and try to achieve it yourself? Go through a costly and time-intensive trial and error phase? Or do you want to leverage an unfair advantage and get a complete tech stack and processes that has been validated with over 432 B2B companies? It basically comes all down to 2 things: being profitable to stay competitive and in the game, and building towards your vision. And we are here to support you on the way to achieve both. Entrepreneurs, great product services should not fail due to a lack of sales and marketing success. If you want to finally predict new business growth, and implement the definite fast track to success, you can book a demo with us here. You can implement the process alone, of course, but it will take you numerous mistakes, mostly due to a lack of industry insights, focusing on the wrong inputs, or executing steps in the wrong order. But you can do it with significantly higher rate of success and in a fraction of time by working with us.